Okay, good morning. So I apologize for not being here on Tuesday. And next week, I'm probably going to break your heart again because it is ICSC, which is the International Collegiate Sales Competition. And I have students competing in that. And although it is a virtual competition, I also have to judge, and my judging schedule interferes with this class. And I put that in the syllabus because we were initially supposed to be live this year, but we're not. But I looked at the judging schedule and my students' competitive schedule, and it conflicts with these two classes. So next week, you will, according to the syllabus, if you look at it, I'm going to pull up the syllabus. It says that I will provide you with an IMC video for the lectures for next week while I'm gone. And then I also have a critical thinking challenge for you, which is because we're going to go into advertising and PR the following week, and IMC is sort of the theoretical foundation for all of what we do in terms of the promotion concepts in marketing. I have a critical thinking challenge for you. If you go to the assessments, what I want you to do is that you'll go to assessments and then to what makes an ad great. I want you to go out on YouTube and the assignment says on YouTube, find an ad that you believe is great. All right. One that you think is great. And then in a brief 5-paragraph essay that should contain a thesis statement. This thesis statement is going to be, I selected the Kellogg's Super Bowl ad from 2015 or whatever as a great ad. I believe the ad is great because it, is funny. I will illustrate this by 3 points. The ad contains a cartoon character which appeals to kids and is, mildly entertaining. The ad shows fun activities while you're eating Frosted Flakes. And then, the third paragraph, the ad, rounds out with a, theme or a story based on all of the following. This is why I believe the ad is great. And then I want you to give me the URL for the ad so that I can look at it. And we may play some of those ads in class the following week when we talk about advertising and PR. So that's what you're going to be doing next week. I know that you're going to be sad that we won't be actually here in class. But if you feel cheated by that, you just give me a call and I'll be happy to talk to you about all of the things that you missed, by not having the pleasure of my company. So next week, you will watch the video and then you'll do what makes an ad great. And then the following week, we will talk about advertising and PR, and we'll watch some of your ads. This is the part of marketing it's at the end of the semester, and it's the part of marketing that everybody thinks of as being marketing. What you watched on Tuesday, the channels marketing, and what we're going to talk about today, retailing and wholesaling, a lot of people don't think of as being marketing. It's one of the oldest fields of marketing, but it's the part of marketing that you don't see. It's the getting the goods to the right place, to the consumer in the place that they want them. So we're going to talk about retailing and wholesaling today. I don't know that will take up the entire 75 minutes, so yes.
When is the critical thinking challenge due? Is it Tuesday or Thursday?
It'll be due by the following Tuesday.
Well, not next Tuesday, but.
No, it's open right now, so you can start looking at it, but it will be due the following Tuesday when we start discussing advertising and promotion. So it'll be the 16th. Let me put that in there. I'll modify that right now so that that's in there. Due date November 16th. So it's on the thing. All right. Any other questions? So retailing and wholesaling. So the value of retailing, when we talked about, and in the video on channels, I discussed this. This is the place aspect of the 4 Ps. How do we get the product to where you want it? So the value of retailing, it has those properties of time, place, form, and possession. So it's getting the product to you safely in the form that you want it. at the time that you want it and at a place that is convenient for you. Historically speaking, where were automobiles, if you went back, say, to the 1950s, which seems like an astronomically long time ago, considering that none of you were born in the 1950s. I wasn't even born in the 1950s, but you should have some idea of this. Where was the heart of automobile manufacturing in the United States? It was Detroit, yeah, right? So the heart of automobile manufacturing was in Detroit. Why in Detroit? Well, I guess it started there because, or in that region, because there were a lot of the raw materials that you needed to produce automobiles in that area. That's called now we refer to that as the Rust Belt, sort of the industrial zone of America. Most of that's gone overseas. But historically, the way you manufacture cars, this is not the way we manufacture them today, but you used a lot of steel. And there were lots of steel companies there. But if you wanted to buy the car, people lived throughout the United States in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, right? You didn't want to have to travel to Detroit to buy your car. So they transport cars to deal through a dealership network for General Motors, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, through a dealership network to locations that are convenient to you. Like if you go down on Broadway, they have, basically like a mile of cars. And then they used to call it the Magnificent Mile of Cars in Norman, where you could go and they've got, GMC, Chevy, Cadillac, Lexus, all of those. And we have, Bob Moore, Bob Howard, and a bunch of other dealerships down on Broadway in South Edmond. So it gets that to you in the form that you want it, at the place that you want it, at the time that you want it, that it's convenient. Now, as a result of disruptions in the supply chain, if you're trying to buy a car right now, it may not be in the form, time, or place that you want it because they're having a hard time getting the chips. We've figured out exactly as a result of COVID and the trade war that Trump started with China, how fragile that just-in-time inventory control is in terms of the ability to disrupt that supply chain. They also provide value in terms of taking possession. So, and you'll see this from time to time in Oklahoma. What's one of the things that happens during tornado season in this state? Well, we have lots of storms, and a lot of those storms contain hail. And so you'll have like hail damage to cars that dealers take risk on, right? And they're going to have to discount those cars because if you're going to buy a new car, you want it to be all shiny and new and not dented. And so you'll see like hail sales and things like that during that time. So they're taking possession and they're taking this risk that provides value to you, and that you're not having to, store it in your garage until the time that you want it. So the impact of retailing is absolutely huge. 4 of the 40 largest businesses are in retail. And that's an old list because now we would have to add Amazon as one of the largest retailers because retailing has changed and going online. But Walmart, Costco, Home Depot, and Target, and of course also now Amazon on large. So we might say the 5 of the largest businesses are in the retail business now, because we've got to add Amazon into that. So it's a major impact on our economy. One of the things that keeps the American economy going is consumer confidence and consumer spending. We love to buy. We love to buy stuff. And it's a huge impact and a major part of our economy, a major part of our value of our GDP. So there are different types of retail establishments, and we can classify them in a number of different ways. We can classify them in terms of the form of ownership that you have in retail. There are independent retailers, which are 1.1 million businesses, and that's actually increased over the last number of years as a lot of people have started their own business. And it's easy to start your own retail business now in the online marketplace, right? I went to law school with a lady who she put herself through law school by starting an online retail business on eBay. Basically selling all kinds of stuff. She would find stuff and then market it and sell it on eBay. And that's how she paid for her law school. So she had a little eBay store. What are some other examples of sites that you can use that you can start your own?
Etsy.
Etsy is a big one. People put all kinds of stuff, particularly artists and crafts people put their stuff on Etsy. Shopify, okay, I don't think I've heard of that one. What do you?
Actually, you make your own website and sell your own stuff. Many of the websites like that you see are powered by Shopify.
Okay, who else?
Amazon.
Amazon obviously is a big one. Amazon has stuff that they have for themselves. How did Amazon get started? Bookstore. Yeah, they were basically bringing sellers and buyers together in an online marketplace for books.
I think it's called Fiverr, where you can like commission artworks or just music for people to do.
Okay, I haven't heard of that one. It's always interesting to find ones that I've never heard of. Anybody else? Can you think of any? There's one called Biblio, which is like a version of what Amazon used to be. It sells mostly books, textbooks. I think they're still around. So there are 1.1, but a lot of these are now online, and so that number has increased. You can have corporate chain stores. So what's an example of corporate chain other than Walmart or Target? What's a corporate chain store? Homeland. And Homeland has actually has several brands under. So when we talked about branding, Homeland now has a number of brands under their umbrella of the Homeland Corporation. So for example, in Guthrie, we used to have a Homeland, but they decided that because that store was older and because the population of Guthrie has less income on average, less per capita household income than places like Edmond, they converted that store from being a Homeland into being what they call a cash saver, which is a cost plus version of their grocery store. So they carry lots of stuff, and it actually is an interesting model because they don't always carry, they carry mostly the same things over and over again, but a lot of times you'll see that they'll have specials that they will come and go, and they won't get it back, even if you really like it. Whereas the Homeland here in Edmond tends to be fairly stable in the products and goods that they provide. It also tends to be more upscale. They've got better selection in terms of produce and things like that. Their bakery and their deli have a greater and expanded selection than the Cash Saver does. So that's an example. Anybody else got an example of a corporate chain?
Stores like Marshalls and TJ Maxx.
Okay, yep, those are definitely corporate chains. So they basically, Marshalls and TJ Maxx, I think their model is that they buy stuff from previous seasons, and then it doesn't, fashion doesn't change that quickly, particularly in places like Oklahoma. It changes more quickly in places like New York and Los Angeles, but last year's clothing they'll buy in bulk from other department stores and then reduce the cost and resell, or not resell it, but sell it at a discount. Somebody else have? Yeah.
Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's, that's one of my favorite. Trader Joe's actually started as for what they call Bobos, Bohemians in Paradise. There was a book called Bohemians in Paradise. So it was supposed to be a discount store for people who had maybe high levels of education, but not necessarily high levels of income. Artists, actors, people like that, musicians that were sort of hip and cool, but didn't have necessarily a lot of money, but wanted access to more goods that were not just sort of like frozen peas and vegetables. The average Trader Joe's store only carries something like 7,000 stock keeping units, whereas the average grocery store will carry something like 35,000 stock keeping units, individual stock keeping units. So it was a very sort of niche store. It turned out that it wasn't just attractive to people with high educations but low incomes or moderate incomes compared to other people that are highly educated. It became very attractive to high income people. And in fact, the areas that Trader Joe's went into And they historically went into strip malls that were sort of struggling, and they became an anchor. And there's a study that looks at, did Trader Joe's impact the property values of the neighborhoods around it? Or did the neighborhoods around it, were they basically, was it a chicken or the egg kind of thing, attracted to Trader Joe's because of the income levels that were there and the types of people that were there? So when a Trader Joe's goes in, property values have a tendency to either go up, and there's a study being done on as to whether or not those were up and coming, and that's why Trader Joe's went there, or whether Trader Joe's actually, by having a Trader Joe's there, the image of the neighborhood itself becomes more sort of regentrified in cities around the country. So Trader Joe's is another one. Who else had another example? I think you were. Aldi, yeah. So Aldi's another interesting example of a corporate store. Their model is that they're cheap. And it's not necessarily the most pleasant experience if you've ever been in an Aldi. There may only be in an Aldi, for example, 2 people working at any one time. And they basically have to do everything. If they're not, running the cash register, they're stocking shelves. And Aldi just sort of they don't do traditional sort of marketing. Like, they just take the boxes of oranges and set them up on the shelves, right? They don't actually take them out and put them on a sort of cool display, which is an interesting marketing.
Starbucks.
Oh God, I hate Starbucks. Starbucks actually is, I think, franchise. They have some corporate systems, but I think there are also franchises of Starbucks. And I see you've got Starbucks. I absolutely hate Starbucks. Cannot stand Starbucks. Anyone else come up with a corporate chain?
Lowe's.
Lowe's, yeah. Lowe's and Home Depot are huge corporate chains. Those are becoming enormously popular, particularly during COVID. The construction and home improvement business boomed because it was something you could do, and you had all this disposable or discretionary income. Then you can have contractual systems, which are things like the International Grocers Association. So what this allowed people to do was independent retailers, and lots of small towns still have these. They'll have like a Smith's food store or Harris's food store, and it'll say like Harris IGA, Independent Grocer Association. And that allows them to pool their resources and basically get the discounts that you would get from something like a Walmart type level of purchasing power. Anybody think of any other contractual systems like that? Where it's basically a pool of people that come together in order to try and reap the benefits of,
I think there's a market called Vinco.
Venco.
Yeah, it's like employee owned.
Okay. And that might be a contractual system. I'm not familiar with them, but that may be where they're going in with partnership with other small people and taking advantage of the volume discounts that you get from being able to purchase large amounts. That's one of the things that's interesting about Trader Joe's as well, that because they only have, like, what did I say, 3,500 to 7,000 stock keeping units in a Trader Joe's, they take advantage and they leverage that buying power, because they're not buying all of these things, but they are buying huge volumes of these products from a single supplier. So they're able to market it really quickly. One of the things that Trader Joe's became really popular for years ago was a wine called $2 Chuck, and it's no longer $2. It was $2 for a bottle of, it was Charles Shaw wines, and it's no longer, I think it's $3 or $4 Chuck now, probably. The most modern, most contemporary version of it. We can also classify retail by the level of service that you get from the retail establishment. So there's completely self-service retail, which would be things like wholesale clubs. Aldi is an example of completely self-service, other than the cashier. Yeah. The Restaurant Depot. Yeah, that's actually a wholesaler, because you have to have a restaurant in order to buy from Restaurant Depot. I actually have a membership there, but you actually have to be a retail. They don't sell direct to the public. Yeah.
Amazon Go.
Amazon Go, okay. What else?
Costco.
Costco is obviously a club. Now, those have actually started to, I'm gonna let you have one more, but that's it. I said I was limiting it to two, but
Oh.
since I didn't catch it, I'll let you have it this time. I'll let you have three for today. We'll make that the rule for the day since I let one person do three. They've actually started adding more services than they were originally. I started buying from Sam's 37 years ago when my family opened the business. That was one of the things that I could do was I was in high school and I could run down and pick up all of the supplies for my family's business. And so I did that. I would run around. I'd go to Chef's Market and Sam's and US Foods and get stuff that we needed because none of those three carried everything that we needed. And it was basically like they had pallets of stuff. They just undid the shrink wrapping around the pallets and they set them out. They've now transformed into a much more level of service, a greater level of service. Costco started out the same way. They were big in other places besides Oklahoma. I think they started out on the coast, whereas the first Sam's Club was actually in Edmond, Oklahoma, and it's where CarMax is now. CarMax on Memorial Road. That was actually the first Sam's Club in the United States. And that store moved out on Memorial to Penn. So it was a traditional self-service. There was no, calling in and getting your stuff. They now have added those services to it. So it's not quite the warehouse club that it used to be because I can now fax in or email in or order online and pick up at the store. They offer credit card services now. They have gas, they have stuff like that. Limited service, which is historically Walmart, but Walmart is becoming more than just a limited service. And that, again, as a result of the pandemic and having to compete with things like Amazon, they've added more and more services. So you go to Walmart now and they have delivery or pickup services where they'll actually pull the stuff for you. And then there's the truly full service level of retail. This would be, historically speaking, the very upscale department stores where they have, for example, at Neiman Marcus's historically, and I think Neiman's has actually filed for bankruptcy, and they may have emerged from bankruptcy, and I don't know that they have this level of service that they used to, but they basically had a concierge service in Neiman's that would help you with everything, help you putting together entire outfits, or entire wardrobes, if that's what you wanted, to help you for everything that you do in your life. There's a clothing manufacturer called Tom James, and they used to sponsor the International Collegiate Sales Competition, which is where what I will be participating in next week. They were the major sponsor of that competition for a number of years. And Tom James actually sends people out to your house. They discuss your lifestyle, and then they build an entire wardrobe around that, all custom made and measured fit. That's becoming much easier in the contemporary era. We now have all kinds of things that are now semi-custom made in terms of you can go online and measure get your measurements by taking photographs and using apps and get sort of custom made and custom fitting clothes for things like shirts, pants, jackets, all that kind of stuff. So full service, historically, those were the really luxury department stores, but it's becoming easier. And this is an example, again, going back to those first lectures, how all of this stuff integrates. This is an example of how we've moved into an era of value co-creation, where companies are really engaging, and not necessarily in person, but through the use of technology, they're engaging with their client to create value. So if you're going to do the customized shirts and pants and stuff like that, some of these retailers now, online retailers offer, you're going to have to engage with the company through the use of their technology to get your measurements so that they can, and then select the fabrics and things that you want. There's a blue jean company out there that's done this, and I can't think, anybody know the name of it, that's now does your measurements and it's supposed to be an exact fit for you. Blue jeans are one of the things that are sort of interesting in terms of the manufacturing process and why you have to try on every pair of blue jeans, but these are supposed to be custom made because of where the fabric is cut in the bolt, may lead to stretching in different sizes. So even though they cut it from a pattern and they use laser cutting technology, but it's still where they put the bolt down. It used to be historically that they cut it with a die, but now they use a laser cutting, but they still cut by huge bolts. And where they cut in that bolt can affect sort of the size and imperfections in the denim. We can also classify retail in terms of the types of merchandise lines that they have, the depth of assortment in each item. So a good example here is Sam's Club has almost all of the same categories of items, if not exactly the same categories of items as Walmart, but they don't have a lot of breadth. They have, they have a lot of breadth, but they don't have a lot of depth. That's what I meant to say. Got my terms backwards there. If you go to Sam's, they carry toothpaste, they carry underarm deodorant, they carry shampoo, just like Walmart does. But how many varieties of those do they have? They'll have, like for men, they'll have one variety of underarm deodorant. And for women, they'll have one variety of underarm deodorant. They'll have one or two varieties of razors. Whereas at Walmart, you can get Harry's, you can get Schick, you can get, you get the 3-blade, the 4-blade, the 5-blade. I can't even fathom. I don't think that those like 3 and 4 blades actually work that well for men, but they manufacture them, and it's a marketing ploy. They don't have all of that at Sam's that they have at Walmart. They don't carry Harry's at Sam's the last time I checked when I was in there. They carry one variety of razor for men and one variety for women. But they do have a lot of breadth. They have the same breadth that Walmart has, just not the depth. So you can have stores that have enormous depth and not a lot of breadth. That would be some independent retailers. Can you think of a store that's a specialty store that has a lot of depth in their product line, but not a lot of breadth? Anybody? He doesn't have 3. You could even use a big retailer. Doesn't necessarily have to be an independent. That has an enormous amount of depth, but not a lot of breadth.
Would Aldi be one?
I don't think so. I think they've got a lot of breadth, but not a lot of depth.
What about Bath and Body?
Yeah, I think that's a good example because all they carry, for the most part, they're not carrying books. Like Sam's carries books, right? And copy paper and stuff like that. Bath and Body carries what?
Lotion. Smells good.
They carry shampoo and bath bombs and bath salts. And I've never been in one, so I don't, but it's all like this stuff that you can use it's toiletry items, but it's not copy paper and books and textiles and all these other things that they have.
I was gonna say Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble is a very good example. They have an enormous amount of depth in terms of books. If you go to Sam's carries books. And right now during this season, they primarily have like Christmas books and children's books and things like that. But if you go to Barnes and Noble, they have history, they have philosophy, they have murder mystery, they have like sections of different types of fiction. So, like there's romance novels, there's murder mystery, like I said, there's, I don't know, what other kinds of fiction are there? Historical fiction, things like that. They've got an enormous amount of that, but they don't carry things like, they carry some, but they don't carry things like computers. They mostly carry like tablets that you'd use for their stuff, but not a lot of breadth in terms of what they carry. Who else had an example?
I was gonna say Lush. It's kind of like Bath and Body Works.
Yeah,
but
it's all cosmetics, and it's supposedly small batch handmade cosmetics
Mhm.
and beauty products and things like that. Soaps, yeah, that's another example. Who else had their hand up? Yeah.
Like a clothing outfitter, like a American Eagle outfitter.
Yeah, obviously, they have a lot of different styles of shirts and pants and things like that, but they're not carrying stuff that doesn't go within those product lines. They may carry belts and socks and stuff like that, but it's not necessarily that they're carrying, watches or cufflinks or things like that.
AutoZone.
AutoZone, yeah, they carry all kinds of auto products and things that you need to fix your car, maintain your car, and they have lots and lots of them, right, of that category, but not necessarily a great deal of breadth. They're not carrying heads of lettuce, things like that. Anybody else?
Victoria's Secret.
Yeah, that's another one. Lots and lots of variety of very limited product lines. They're not carrying jeans and shirts and things like that. What else?
GameStop.
Okay. They're an interesting one because they've been in the news recently for what?
For their stock.
For their stock, because their stock was way overvalued, and they actually stopped trading on GameStop because the online trading thought that it was people were, and it really annoyed a lot of small investors because they felt like if they had been big investors, they wouldn't be manipulating the market and stopping the trading on that stock. But their stock was going through the roof. Did you have one?
Ace Hardware.
Ace, yep, they carry lots of stuff. They're not carrying food for the most. I mean, they have snacks and stuff like that at the front that you can pick up on your way out, but it's mostly hardware stuff, hammers, nails, boards, things like that. Anybody? Yeah.
Foot Locker.
Foot Locker. It's all shoes, socks, things like that you can use for, your feet, but not like jackets and things like that. Good examples. I'm almost out of ducks, and I got more ducks. You guys are rocking the ducks today. We can also talk about non-store retailing automatic vending machines like we have here. There are lots of people that make money at this. They go into small businesses and they buy the machines. I have a friend who does this, and he buys all these vending machines and goes in and says, I'll rent a space for you in office parks and stuff like that. I'll rent, a space for $50 a month if you let me put vending machines in. And he stocks them with Coke and pop and things like that and candy. Direct mail and catalogs. This is one area that's dying, although it's slow because there are still a lot of traditionalists out there that like to get the catalogs in the mail for specialty items. Eddie Bauer is one that sends a lot of catalogs out. Orvis still sends a lot of catalogs out, and people who buy stuff at Orvis, even though they tend to have a great deal of sophistication in terms of online, they still like getting the catalogs. My brother gets catalogs. Anybody know what Orvis sells? Nobody's into fly fishing in here? Okay. TV shopping networks. This is another one that's that I don't know what the future is going to hold in terms of that. Although there are lots of people who become addicted to the TV shopping networks. Lori Grenier on Shark Tank, got her start basically on TV shopping networks. Online is obviously becoming a huge business. This is one where 15 years ago, I wouldn't have thought that you could buy stuff like clothing online, but I like French cuff shirts. And for years and years and years, I dressed much better than I am today because it doesn't sort of go with my current look. But anyway, I like French cuff shirts. I have like 350 of them. They're hard to find. There's a retailer in London who actually makes them, and they had very easy exchanges. So once I figured out what their sizing, because the sizing in the UK is slightly different than American sizing, the way we size. Once I figured out their process and sent a couple shirts back and got some that I really liked, I bought a lot of shirts from them. And I had never thought that you would ever do that. I thought textiles and things like that are things that people are going to want to touch. But now, again, with the ability to sort of measure, to order, people are doing a lot of that.
Even with glasses, I know my sister, I can't remember the name of the website, but it lets you try the glasses on.
Warby Parker.
And
Yeah.
that's when she gets her glasses.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things. Historically, you went to the optometrist and you got your prescription, and then you went, the optometrist may have had their own store, or they affiliated with lens crafters or something like that. And then you would buy your glasses right from them. They would write the prescription and you'd buy it, and you'd wait 2 weeks to get your glasses in. Now they've got, they'll contact your optometrist for you, get the prescription, which they have to give. And you can buy glasses online, and you can try on different, and they save you a lot of money. And the Warby Parker's big deal is that they're environmentally conscious because they're using, I think, largely recycled products. That's one of the big things that they do. Telemarketing, this one almost died because of the do not call list, which was completely destroyed. This is not a political statement, but a statement of fact. It was largely destroyed by the Trump administration. And they overcame the regulations. So how many of you, historically, you had a cell phone, you put your number on the do not call list, and they didn't give out cell phone numbers, but now they can get them. And how many of you have gotten calls to tell you that your automobile's extended warranty is about to expire at any moment? And this is telemarketing, and it's made a comeback. This is one that I would have said was like absolutely gone about 7 years ago, but it has like sprung back to life in ways that I could never even imagine. Direct selling. There are still companies that engage in direct selling of their products. Mary Kay Cosmetics is one that is a direct seller. They go door to door. They have a Mary Kay representative. There's somebody in Guthrie who has a pink XT5 Mary Kay Cadillac. If you have that car, you are a multimillionaire in terms of it's a multi-level marketing. Multi-level marketing, I used to say scheme, but it's a multi-level marketing organization in which you try and get other people to join Mary Kay and become part of your distribution network. And the more you get to join, the more money you make. Pampered Chef is another one that does that. Yeah. Do you have 3? I think you already have 3, but I'll go ahead and make your comment. Tesla, yeah, they do direct. They didn't have dealership, which actually was interesting in how they did that, because lots of states have laws that say you have to sell through a dealership network. And Tesla now actually has physical locations where you can go, but they did direct marketing, direct sales.
There's one called Princess House, and it's just like home, like pots and like pans.
Okay, I've not heard of that
For
one.
them, so.
You got 2. I'll let you get one more. Did you have?
Does it say was Avon one wants?
Yes, Avon was a big one that was direct. So the way you got Avon was you had a representative that used to go door to door, and they would hand out catalogs, and my grandmother's best friend forever did Avon. And Avon's #1 selling product was actually something that wasn't intended. It was an example of how consumers use it differently than the product was intended. Their #1 selling product for a long time was something called Skin So Soft, and it was supposed to make your skin soft and supple. It was an amazing bug repellent. It worked really, really well on repelling mosquitoes and biting gnats, and people would order, like particularly at golf courses, lots of Skin So Soft. I'm gonna have to get some markers, I guess. Since we're running out of docs today.
I was gonna say Scentsy
Yeah,
started doing that.
yeah, that's how they started. I think you can get Scentsy in stores now, but it was retailer, or it was independent distributors, not retailers, that sold it. My niece did Scentsy, and you would have Scentsy parties. Pampered Chef again was another one that you would do that. So you'd have like these little house parties and invite people over and serve, cocktails and stuff like that, and then get them to buy. Herbalife, that's another one. Arbonne is another one that goes along with sort of the Herbalife. That was a multi-level direct selling marketing program. I don't know what that is.
It's like a clothing thing that was really big on Facebook. People would
Okay.
sell it.
I wonder why the camera has stopped. Come over here. Come on, move. Over here. Maybe it'll come back, hopefully. So direct selling. And of course, one of the things that we work on in our sales program is direct selling. Lots and lots of business to business selling is done by direct. Are we coming back? Yeah, it's coming back. All right. So the wheel of retailing and the retail life cycle. So generally speaking, stores start out where they're trying to penetrate and they have low margins. Now, this is not all stores, obviously, but the vast majority, you can look at the way they start out. And Walmart is a classic example of this. Who knows where Sam Walton was actually born?
Oklahoma.
Huh?
It was somewhere, I mean, when you drive down Northwest Expressway, there's like a sign that says.
Okay, so he was in Oklahoma, do you know specifically?
Kingfisher, Oklahoma.
He was born in Kingfisher, Oklahoma. That's right. He was born in Kingfisher, Oklahoma. And he moved to Arkansas after he was in the military, I think. He didn't actually start out with his own store. The first retail store he had was a 5 and dime franchise called Ben Franklin. And he was such a success at this store that his landlord decided that that would be just a very good business for his son-in-law. He would put his son-in-law up in this business, and look, it's already there. People are already used to coming there. So he basically didn't renew the lease on Sam Walton's first store, which is a Ben Franklin. So he then went off and started another store, and I think the second store was when he moved to Bentonville, Arkansas. And that store was not called Walmart either. It was called Walton's, which was his second 5 and dime store. And he found all of these things. He'd go to market and he'd find these goods and he would sell them really cheaply. He'd put them on end caps and things like that. One of the things that he found that nobody thought would be a big success, and you all probably own tons of these if you live in Oklahoma and you go to Lake at all, are flip-flops. He was the first to realize that like this type of shoe would be perfect for people who live in places like Arkansas, where there's lots of lakes and it's hot and you just want to throw something on quickly and not burn your feet running across the parking lot or whatever. And you don't want to have to put socks and shoes on because it gets hot in the summer and it lets your feet breathe. And he was the first to really make flip-flops a big popular item. And he did it by just buying thousands of them and putting them in a big bin at the front of the store for almost no money, like under $1, I think, at the time that he started them. Then he starts getting more stores and it becomes Walmart, right? So then we're established and it's still the low cost provider, right? He's still sort of a low cost provider, but you do get higher margins as you increase the number of goods that you sell, right? Then in the third stage, you're strongly established, you get higher price and higher cost. Walmart has managed to keep their prices low by having the ability to go in and strong arm. If you want to sell to Walmart, you have got to have an office in Bentonville, Arkansas, and you have to go through them. Now, historically, they had some control at the local level, and some people were very lucky. And there are two examples in Oklahoma of people who got very lucky and got into Walmart when individual store managers still had about control over 5% of the stuff that they could get and they could source locally. They no longer allow you to do this. The two that were lucky in Oklahoma that got to do this and were introduced in Walmart on a limited, very basic level here in Oklahoma and have now branched out to selling nationwide through the Walmart distribution system are Head Country Barbecue, which I think is absolutely the best barbecue on the planet. It's manufactured here in Ponca City by the Head family, and Maria Reyes, which is a manufacturer of salsa and chips and kind of Mexican Tex-Mex fare. Then in the fourth stage, you get competitors entering with and so you get lower margins and you have to be more strategic. What has happened to Walmart? Well, somebody figured out that they could enter into the same space and the same goods that Walmart was selling, but they could do it more efficiently and better by doing direct to you through second day shipping for free, and that's called Amazon, right? And so we're now in the fourth stage, and Walmart is now, they didn't have a huge online presence. They're having to catch up. Now there's still a huge, and there's going to be a long way to go before they probably fall off the planet. But at one point in time, Walmart, and Sam Walton was the wealthiest man in the world. He's not. And by the way, Jeff Bezos, who sort of overtook the Walmart fortune, has now fallen to number 2. Do you know who's the wealthiest man in the world now?
Elon Musk.
Why is it Elon Musk? Do you know why?
Because that's the stuff.
It's because of why? Do you know why
Like,
specifically?
like,
Oh, you already got 3, sorry.
Because Jeff Bezos' wife took all his money.
No.
Made a choice.
She did get a lot of his money, but no, that's not why he's dropped. He's worth only $190 billion. Elon Musk is worth twice that. Does anybody know why Elon Musk is worth twice that?
Because of SpaceX.
No.
No.
But it's a good guess. I'll give you for the good guess.
I know they split Tesla
And I'll
stock.
give you
back
for
in
the
like-
guess that Jeff Bezos' wife took all his money. No, she didn't take all his money. It's one factor that led to, no,
It's
and you've got
stock.
3. It's stock, the reason, but the
Does it
reason,
have to do with him having his stock split when it reached a certain amount?
no.
Does that have to do with what the control?
The shares.
It does in a roundabout way. Do you know why? How many do you have? 2, I'll give you 1.
He made some people mad and they dropped their stocks at the end of the day.
No, that's not, the reason Tesla, since nobody's getting it, the reason that Tesla stock jumped, in my opinion, is because a car rental company placed a huge order with Tesla for rental cars. That company has a huge, it's Hertz, rent a car, placed a huge order. And all of a sudden on that news, when the rental car companies start using your product, it means that it's firmly established, right? And so that with that news alone, the stock price on Tesla just went through the roof. Now, will it stay there? I don't know. I mean, lots and lots of competitors are entering the market in terms of electronic vehicles. And one of the things that happened with Tesla, and I have several friends who have Teslas, and the quality control is just not what it should be, because they know how to manufacture batteries and they know how to manufacture electric engines, but what they didn't have really good sense of was how to manufacture all of the sort of touch parts that people really care about. Like Cadillac is now doing an all-electric vehicle, and the Cadillac, I will tell you, will probably be on the interior far more, other than like the technology on the screen, in terms of like the leathers that they use and the quality of the interior product will probably be a lot better, because they just have, Cadillac and GM have decades of experience with manufacturing those kinds of components that Tesla just didn't. But they've worked out a lot of it, and they are catching on, obviously. And when the car companies start using you, that's one of the reasons that you'll start to get a big jump in that stock, because it means that you've got a huge order out there. Changes in retailing, multi-channel retailing and using an integrated approach. So one of the things that does position Walmart well for dealing with this is, although they were late to the online game, there's still times that you cannot wait for it to be shipped, even if you get second day shipping, right? If I run out of something in our restaurant, and I'm the executive chef for my family's business, if I run out of something and I have to have it, there isn't even a wholesaler that I can run to quickly. Where am I going to run if I'm running out of a spice or something like that? I'm still going to have to run to Walmart. And so, you know, they're doing online, they're doing delivery now. They're got a bricks and clicks model of marketing. A big part of that, and something that's really important when you start doing this in this multi-channel retail space, And you see this again with catalog companies like Orbis, Eddie Bauer, they still send out lots of catalogs because lots of people in that traditional age group that have enormous amounts of discretionary income, not just disposable income, but discretionary income, still like to get stuff in the mail. My mother, who is 72, still likes to get, even though she's fairly tech savvy, she still likes to get stuff in the mail and flip through catalogs because that's what she remembers as a child doing, getting the wish book from Sears and going through those. It is making sure that you manage those customer experiences across all of those channels that you select in your marketing process. So making sure that what was one of the things that made Walmart successful initially was the fact that they would take anything back without questions asked. Now, Amazon Prime will do that. I will tell you one of the things that will happen to you though, is if you send too many things back, they will cancel, they will blackball you. And they don't tell you how many items it is before they get annoyed with you. Walmart never did that. And it's managing that experience.
So I have 2 different apartments in my complex that have the same number.
Mhm.
And so a lot of my stuff gets misdelivered. And so I'll get like refunds because they'll take it inside and take it. And they just sent
And then
me an
they'll send it
email.
back.
They sent me an email saying you've returned too many things this year. And I'm like, but you're not delivering it to my house. I don't know what you want me to do.
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, they and Walmart won't do that. I mean, Walmart historically, now they actually
they
have
do
gotten,
eventually.
they do. Yeah. They have gotten to the point where they scan your driver's license now. And if you want cash back rather than just an exchange, if you exchange it, there's no problem with Walmart, but it's managing those expectations. But Amazon has figured out there is a customer. This is an example of there are customers that you don't want. Now for you, it's obviously,
Yeah.
they figured out they don't want you, but it's not your fault. There are customers that you don't necessarily want. You can't keep every customer because you can go broke trying to keep those customers, some customers. But managing those customer experiences becomes really important. Wholesaling, the different types of wholesaling that we can have. We can have merchant wholesalers, and you can have full service and limited service. So what is a full service merchant wholesaler? Well, it's one that will offer things like credit and delivery, or limited service where they're wholesaling, but they don't offer you things like credit. It's a cash on delivery basis. You pick it up rather than them delivering it to you. You can also have agents and brokers who don't actually take possession, but they facilitate transactions among the players and make it easier. So they provide a transactional function. You can have manufacturers agents that act as a sales force. And this is one of the things that we did in the company that I worked for. We had manufacturers agents. We didn't want to hire and pay for all of the salespeople that we needed for the company that I worked for. So we sold through independent distributor networks to schools and prisons and things like that. And then those independent distributors, they were responsible for paying, for example, the payroll taxes or the 7.5% of payroll taxes that employers pay. And we didn't have them on our healthcare insurance policies, and we didn't have to pay that. So we basically passed off the cost to a distributor network, and they went out and sold our products for us for a commission. And then you can have brokers who bring buyers and sellers together. This is used largely in the produce and the grocery industry, where you'll find brokers who sort of bring together and use that facilitating function. Any questions about retailing and wholesaling? All right, so next week there will be a video. It's on D2L already. It's the IMC videos, but I will send it out in an email as well. I will be working on ICSC and working with our students. So you'll watch the videos, and then you'll also find an ad that will be due a week from next Tuesday, and we'll discuss your picks for top ads and what makes an ad great. A lot of you got ducks today, so come and see me. And as soon as I got the list from Dr. Workgrave, those of you that went, and I'm going to try and update that. I have updated the article reviews. Did everybody get their grade for the article review? All right, very good. So I'm going to stop the video and come up if you got ducks.